Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Conversations with Friends in the Hub today. And I am delighted that we have a new and great guest for all the way from Massachusetts, and that is Erica Waasdorp. Erica, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Really excited to be here. This is exciting.
And Erica, you have your own business company called A Direct Solution, is that right?
That is correct. Yep. Yeah, 20
Yes.
years now. Yeah.
Yes, I was we listened to the video that we have in the hub. So the reason we connected was we recently, a couple of weeks ago, shared your first steps for implementing an impactful monthly giving program video on the hub. So people, if you haven't already watched that video, jump into the hub and listen to Erica. She's an incredibly experienced person in the space of regular giving, and that's what I want to talk to her about today. Erica, I deliberately don't get to know my guests very well before we meet, so I would love you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. Yeah. So now number one, I love monthly giving, right? So I've been in direct marketing for 40 years and monthly giving for 30 years. And I wrote a book in 2012, Monthly Giving, The Sleeping Giant, and then Monthly Giving Made Easy in 2021, because I saw the need to help nonprofits like really grow the monthly giving.
Yeah,
I mean, I was fortunate that I moved here from the Netherlands. I've been in the U.S. for 30 years, and obviously in the Netherlands, I mean, it was really everybody like shares bank account information. I mean, that's how people pay. I mean, small donors are very common.
yeah,
So I was used to monthly giving. It was not a new thing. And then when it came to the States, it was like, oh, this is a new thing and it really can grow, right? So I was fortunate that I started working for an international organization and really grew their monthly giving program in 6 countries.
wow,
And mind you, that was 30 years ago, mail and phone.
yeah,
That was like face to face canvassing was just starting. DRTV, direct response television, was starting.
yeah,
Online did not exist.
yeah,
It email did not exist. So I mean, a lot has changed, right? A lot has changed. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. That's what I'm excited to. Yeah, so tell us a bit about that. I mean, yeah, it's when you say a lot of change, because we often refer back to, um, the basic. No advance in technology will change the fundamental principles. Do you believe that to be true, having been in this space with so much experience for such a long time? Yes, we've got better tools and we can maybe, we can, but does it change the fundamentals?
That's a really interesting question. I think the fundamentals, the basics as to how you treat donors and how you need to thank them,
Yeah,
um, I think people have to think a little bit harder now
yeah,
because they say, well, we've got these tools, so isn't it enough to just send a thank you message via email? And the reality is, no, you need to do something, in the mail, or you might
yeah,
need to make a phone call, right? Even if that, or send a text message. So do something in addition to what maybe the tools are driving you to do. So I think the donors themselves, I mean, they want to help. That
yeah,
hasn't changed. I mean, donors are still motivated to help, and so we as fundraisers have to ask them to do that.
yeah,
But I think from a financial point of view, in terms of investment, the investment in monthly and regular giving was much larger early on,
yeah,
30, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, because it was only mail and
yeah,
phone. Systems were much more cumbersome, right? So I think that has changed.
yeah,
So everybody now has the tools.
yeah. No
What
excuses.
you have no excuses except that there's still the constant, like I was having a conversation with somebody today. It's like, okay, well, yeah, we might want to try this regular giving thing, but oh, by the way, we've got all these other things that we need to worry about,
Yeah,
like that are all the new, shiny, big things that seem cooler and more exciting than asking donors to consider making a small regular gift from their bank account or their credit card, right? Or their debit card. So so I think that's like the asking is still there. And I think as fundraisers, a lot of times people are still like, oh, we can't ask them too often. We can't ask them for too small a gift. We can't ask them for too big a
Yeah.
gift. I mean, it's a constant overthinking that I think fundraisers tend to do, and that hasn't changed, So
Absolutely. I
yeah,
think we just have to remember giving, however we ask our donors to give, has to be an enjoyable experience. And that's our
right,
job, isn't it?
right.
To make it an
Yes,
enjoyable experience.
yes,
And so
yeah.
what do you love about regular giving?
Well, I love the power of it.
Yeah,
And, so I mean, when I do a lot of like webinars and presenting and in-person events as well. And one of my favorite questions is like, okay, well, how many monthly donors do you have? Right. So then people are like, oh, this, 50, 100, 500, thousands, whatever. And then it's like, okay, well, what's their value on an annual basis? And people often don't know. And it's like, okay, go back and say, what's the value
yeah,
of your 100 monthly donors? And they're like, whoa, they have no idea. I mean, like I started working with this small animal charity and they had 350 monthly don't regular givers, right? And when I tend to say monthly because that's usually how most donors here in the US still give,
yeah,
but there are of course other frequencies, right? But I like to, they typically tend to give more money if they give monthly. So, yeah, I mean, 350 monthly donors were worth almost $85,000.
yeah,
So, a year. So it's like, whoa, you can hire people for that, right? I
yeah,
mean, you can serve, a lot of animals for that kind of money. And it's so, 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 and especially I think people that don't understand the power of regular giving and how it's such a great, in a way, it's sort of like a donor centric way of giving, right?
yeah,
It's like allows a donor to make a gift in a way that's comfortable for them, for their budget.
yeah,
That's like so powerful. So people, a lot of organizations that have major donors and major gift managers, and they're like, yeah, yeah, well, don't talk to me until we have a $10,000 gift. And it's
yeah,
like, well, but you're sitting here on just a few donors that are making XYZ, on an annual basis. So don't discount that, right? So I think that's why I love it because it is so powerful.
yeah.
It's
And
it's
there's,
yeah.
especially when you talk about even bequests, somebody
Yes.
who's got a connection of 10, 20 years to an organization who have been giving you every month, do you not think that they're you're on their mind every month? They speak to you every
Absolutely.
month. Of course,
Yes.
they're a bequest
Yes.
consideration.
Yes.
So this is
Yeah.
much bigger than this is a
Oh,
relationship
absolutely.
that can lead
Yes.
to lasting
Yes.
impact. And I think that's
Yes.
often forgotten. We
Yeah.
think of the immediate too often, and actually these are the people who are going to leave a legacy, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. So and I mean the other piece I think why monthly giving is so important is because it helps organizations keep the lights on,
Yeah,
right? It supports their mission, right? I mean, if you look at what just happened in Hawaii, if we look at what just, like in California of all places that has huge like, amounts of rain and a hurricane entering,
yeah,
their area, you know, there's disasters happening all the time.
yeah,
And monthly donors basically like are like your insurance policy
yeah,
to make sure that your lights are kept on, right? But it's that long term mindset that nonprofits have to have, and I guess I don't know about like, Australia, New Zealand, but the problem is that in a lot of countries, there is not that much research. There are not that many statistics as to the tremendous power that
yeah,
monthly donors have. It's sort of like, yeah, it's part of all the other donors, and and until people are really looking at their donor bases and take a look at their numbers, they're like, I had no idea. I mean, it's just astounding. People are like, oh wow, hey, let's get more of those, right? Because we
yes.
want more of those, right? So
So I'm just going to add, I'm regularly given in my uh, fundraising world. It was never something I was part of. It intrigues me. So I might ask a bit of a dumb question here. But what is more important, focusing on getting new regular donors or looking after the ones you've got and maybe kind of asking them for more? Well, if we were to advise, I know that it's in context of your organisation, how long they've been giving, but is that something that needs to be given consideration?
Oh, I mean, totally. So, I mean, obviously, just like with regular
Yeah,
fundraising, right? You always want to bring in new donors,
yeah,
right? But it's almost like retention. I mean, people have said it, retention is the new acquisition, right? So, retention is almost more important,
yeah,
because you can spend a lot of time and effort on bringing in new monthly donors, but then if you don't have a system in place and a process in place to keep them,
yeah,
you just you're just creating that leaky bucket, right? So I think that's like and that's like a lot of times it's something that it might sit in a different department, or somebody is looking at it but not really looking at it, or they get busy and then it falls to
yeah.
the side, right? So a lot of, I mean, I saw like a statistic at one point from it was like I think 2 years ago, where 25% of organizations did not follow up with their regular givers that dropped out.
Yes,
So you've already just lost, so those
yeah.
25% have already lost, pretty much all of your monthly donors, right? So just like, and again, you have the tools. So many of the tools now have automations in
Yeah,
place, but sometimes you have to turn it on.
yeah.
I mean, again, I talk to organizations and it's like, oh, I didn't know we had that. Or, hey, I didn't turn it on, or somebody turned it off, stuff like that. So there's so many things that you can put in place to automate it, but then it's also about how do you treat them,
Yes,
right? How do you keep them engaged, right?
yeah.
So how is that donor experience when they first become a regular giver? And then is that a good one? Then they'll be more likely to stay, especially if you engage them and you thank them right away and all of that good stuff, right? But if that first donor experience is not a good one, and then you don't communicate with them and you don't tell them what's going on and how their gifts are making a difference, then they're going to be much more likely to drop out no matter what you put in place, right? So
Is there a critical time in let's talk about new donors for a minute. Is there a
yeah.
critical timeline of where you have to really nurture them to hold on to them? Is there a time you're confident they will continue, or there's a period where you're at high risk of losing them?
Yeah, it's really that first 3 months.
Yeah,
That's really the key. It also does depend a little bit upon how that your donors became a regular giver,
right.
right? And again, there's just not been that much research to say, because like especially if organizations have small programs, it's we're looking at some of these bigger organizations and saying, okay, well, yeah, it looks like the first 3 months are key. And then after, take a look at the 6 months time frame, 9 months, and first year. But once you get them through that first year, that's like they'll much more likely to stay with you. But a lot of times they don't, again, they don't do much the first 3 months. And if you get somebody on from the street, right, a
Yeah.
canvassing acquired regular giver, it that first month is even more important, right? So it depends a little bit on your channels and messages as well. So
So our community will know a few weeks ago we had Fee McPhee on, who's one of our
I
mavens,
know for you.
and she's
Yeah.
part of the benchmarking project here
Yes.
in Australia, which seems to be doing wonderful. They really are digging into that whole regular giving space, both through phone and all the kind of ways that they recruit. So I think it's really going to give Australia and New Zealand the benchmarking that they're looking for, and the
Yeah.
learnings, because I think in New Zealand and Australia, there's always, regular giving's on a decline, but actually, the evidence suggests that it's not. What's it in America? Is it a space that's growing? Is it declining? Is it kind of on
It's
the
it's still growing. So
flat?
especially if we look at, like, again, we don't have a big benchmarking group like you have in New Zealand and Australia. Again, it's like I mean, if we look at Blackbot, they're looking at like 37 organizations. They're
Yeah.
bigger organizations, but M&R Strategic Benchmarks is a group that looks at online giving, and monthly giving was the only area that grew
Yeah.
last year.
Wow.
So yes, it's still growing. Because again, people, we're in tough times, and so it's a great way for donors to make a difference even with a smaller amount, but on a more regular basis, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
why you're excited, but is there anything kind of that you're fearful about the future of fundraising with the way the world is at the moment, or is it all quite positive for you? Is there anything that you're fearful of?
Well, I mean, I have gray hair. I mean, covering it up. But I have gray hair by, I guess, and I again, I would love to talk some more about like what is that like in New Zealand and Australia and the UK, and with that some of the countries that have been doing this much longer,
Yeah.
right? Is I think data protection
Yeah.
is an area of concern. We're not in the GDPR stage yet in the US, but some states have become much stricter. So that's something to be concerned about. And I think the other thing is it's the continued short-term, long-term balancing act
Yeah.
that needs to happen. And I think sometimes it's like who's making the decisions
Yeah.
on what type of fundraising strategies are being used.
Hmm.
And a lot of times it's not necessarily made by fundraisers, but it's made by people that don't necessarily always know everything about fundraising. So and that's a concern because
Yeah.
I think sometimes we get cut off or don't get the opportunity to try some new things. And I always say to some of my clients and the people that I present to is like, okay, hey, try an email. It's one email. Okay, see what happens, right? It's not the end of the world, right? So and try two emails. Try like a button or this, that, or the other thing, right? So in a lot of times we're afraid. I mean, we get sort of like fearful of being cut off or not being able to do the things that we, I think, as fundraisers know is right, but are not allowed to do because of some other thing, some other decision. So
I look at my children, and they're 4 out of the 5 are kind of adults, technically.
hmm
I just wonder, do you are the next generation or the teenagers now, is regular giving going to be something that they want or love or appreciate in their world? I often think, have I told them enough about that you can give regularly, and they want instant gratification. If they want to help someone, they'll give money there and then. Like, how do we cultivate that, I guess, generosity that's part of your life? I think that one, for me, I want to know, will this next generation want to regularly give a gift?
yeah, I mean, well, I guess it's like if you look at it, like it's kind of more like a subscription,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So
very,
if you
yeah,
look at it, it's, I mean, it's somewhat like it, not totally, but very similar, right? So if you look at it that way, I think it's okay.
very
And
good. Yeah.
again, if you
Very
just
good.
say it helps, the animals or the children or something that you or the climate or something that
Yeah.
you care about. I think younger generations may care about different things. I think that's what I'm seeing is that they may not necessarily care about the stuff that we old people care
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
so but I think it's okay as long as they care about something and
Yeah.
want to and they
And they're
give,
getting
right?
something, if it's their Netflix or their YouTube, if they see that going out and they see their subscription to their charity, but they know what that's giving them and the world,
Right.
then they'll keep
Yeah.
doing it, won't they?
But again, I think it behooves us fundraisers to say, look, we really need to engage this younger generation and find out what do they want,
Yeah.
what do they don't want, right? And again, I think sometimes nonprofits tend to be like, yeah, but we can't ask them, and I'm like, why not? Why can't you ask them for their mobile phone number? And if they don't want to give it, they won't give it. But
Well, yeah, they do not want a phone call. They won't even call
no,
their
but
friends. They'll be like,
right,
"Are you
yeah,
doing that?" Yeah, I'm just waiting for the group chat. Well, can you call them?
yes, yes,
Mom,
yeah,
we don't
right.
use
You don't do
phone.
that, but you can do a text, right? So yeah,
Don't call them in my out of my five. Do not make a phone call. They won't talk to you.
right. But they
Erica,
might do WhatsApp, so
yes,
yeah.
absolutely. That's it. Yeah, interesting one, isn't it? Getting into the talking channels. So, Erica, tell us a little bit where, outside of all of this fundraising knowledge, who is Erica? Where can we find you on the weekend? What do you get up to?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, well, let's see. I'm a big reader. I loved watching TV, and I'm a golfer. I'm not very good. I don't go far, but I go straight.
Yeah,
So I love to play golf, and being Dutch, we like to go for bike rides and
yeah,
and things like that. So if it's nice weather, and I'm an avid movie goer. I
yeah.
love going to the movies. So yeah,
What's your
off the
favorite
beaten
movie?
path stuff. Yeah.
One of your favorite movies?
Oh, oh boy, the American President. I like.
Oh, yeah.
Very romantic. So I don't know. I saw this movie Jules last week. It was pretty cool about this guy who finds his UFO, who has a UFO land in his backyard. It was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean,
All sorts.
I like positive movies.
Yeah,
I'm not crazy about violent or negative or depressing or because I think we live in a world where there's enough bad news going
yeah,
on, so I'm always trying to watch positive stuff. So
yeah, yeah. I
that's
think
what I need that pick me up to be positive,
great
right? So
advice. Great advice. What the final question I always ask all of our guests: what advice would you give to your younger self that you didn't know then that you know now in our world of fundraising?
no will fundraising. um that's a really tough one. I think I probably would have been probably would have made the move to start my own business a little bit earlier. I
Brilliant.
mean that was a scary move, but I did it. So I think I would have been a little bit
Back
happier
to
there for a
yourself.
couple of
Yeah,
years.
back to
Yeah,
yourself more.
yes, right. But yeah, no, I mean, other than that, I'm pretty happy at this was a big move for me to go to a different country, like as you know, right?
Yes.
So and but it's been a great move, and
Nothing
I'm very
ventured,
happy.
nothing gained.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Right? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yes, it's all terrifying, and I think most the best advice. If you're always a little bit uncomfortable, it's a good place to be, isn't it?
yes, yeah, yeah.
Definitely. Erica, it has been wonderful chatting to you and to our community. Jump in and watch Erica's video. It really is insightful. And we will keep chatting to Erica. And I know she's coming out to Australia to visit her family next year. So watch this space. We might be able to
Yeah.
meet with Erica in
That we
person.
I'm thinking about going to Melbourne, so yeah, we might
Yes,
hook up.
yeah,
Yeah.
we could absolutely. This is what the connections are all around the world are, and when they come, when we can make them happen in real life, we will do our best to do that. So, Erica, it's been lovely, wonderful
Great.
to meet you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Right.
And jump into the hub, everyone, and watch Erica's video, and we will see you next time with Conversation with Friends. Bye for now.
Bye.